Hey guys, what's up? I'm T and this is 365 Horror, and this is a horror movie discovery channel. I am just here to put as many horror movies on your watch list as possible. And in today's video, we are going to be looking at 7 brand new releases for you guys to watch and stream today. So let's get into it right now. Now we are going to get into the video, but before we do, I've got to remind you guys to please like and subscribe if you like this content. Also, this video is best watched with the movie tracker. I like to use Letterboxd. It's just the easiest way to keep track of the movies that you've seen and want to see. I also wanted to touch on the availability of these titles, as I have personally went and verified that each one of these titles is available. If you are having trouble seeing them, it might be one of 2 reasons. The first one, you might be region locked. If you are watching in a place like Canada, sometimes these movies don't come out for a little bit, so we do have to wait a little longer for them. And the number 2 reason is that sometimes if you are using the alternative media sites or the free stuff, some of these movies just came out yesterday, so they don't really show up on those services for a couple days. I also wanted to give a heads up to the faithful watchers of this series, as there will not be an episode next week. I will be on vacation in Cancun, so we are going to have to skip a week, but I promise you, any movies that came out, we will catch up with them ASAP. And lastly, this is just a preview. These are not reviews and recommendations. As always, I have included chapters in the description, so if you don't like any of the trailer reactions or any of the movies, you always have the power to skip to the next one. This video here is just a little something for the diehards like me that are always looking for something new to watch. And with that, let's get right into the movies. The first movie we're going to take a look at this week is a horror sci-fi film called Year 10, and this movie's available on VOD Digital. After the fall of civilization, a few survivors have been driven to cannibalism. A young man must confront a violent tribe that has murdered his father and stolen the medicine that keeps his girlfriend alive. It is directed by Ben Goodger. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Year 10, this looks like a decent sci-fi survival horror. When it comes to the creeps and scares, I don't think there will be many, and I think that we're going to get more of kind of an escape, high-tension feel. Now, I can see a lot of situations in the trailer where there's like a lot of hiding and just that kind of tension where we get a lot of close calls. And it being such a brutal post-apocalyptic setting, I just feel like we're going to get a lot of tension because usually there's just danger and hardship around every corner. Now, I could see this movie having some good gore, and although we didn't really see it in the trailer, we do see a couple of pretty violent moments and a couple of pretty gnarly festering wounds, so I could see the movie having a good level of gore. Now, I do kind of tend to have a soft spot for survival horror, especially if it's like a crazy hostile setting, which this movie gives me. And although the acting level wasn't exactly thespian, I didn't think it looked too bad. Now, when it comes to Year 10, I do enjoy a brutal survival horror, and hopefully this is that, and it will be getting a regular priority on my watch list. Next movie we're going to take a look at this week is a horror thriller named Chateau, and this movie's available on VOD Digital. While on a French vacation funded by Odd Jobs, an aspiring influencer covertly films a vlog in a reportedly haunted chateau she's been hired to clean. It is directed by Luc Genton. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Chateau, this looks like a decent, creepy found footage horror. When it comes to the creeps and scares, I found that this movie had a great potential to be pretty creepy and scary. Right from the outset, we do see quite a few creepy situations, and I do think there'll be a good amount of jump scares in the film. Now, even though we don't see a bunch of gore, a couple of the horror elements like the toes and stuff, they had such just a gross look to them. Now, when it comes to the premise of the film, I do like the premise of this one, as, again, I love found footage. I love kind of influencer stories, but we'll have to see how long that lasts, because we are just getting so many kind of YouTuber, vlogger stories at this point that it almost feels like we're getting inundated with them. I also love the setting because, again, I always have a soft spot for just like a creepy house with a lot of just creepy things happening in it. Now, to me, mundane happenings are kind of the bane of any kind of found footage film. They just kind of sometimes drag on way too long. But with the chills that we see in the trailer of this movie and the acting actually not being bad and liking the characters, I do have hope that it's going to be a good payoff. When it comes to Chateau as a found footage, this one looks promising and will get a regular priority on my watch list.
I got a cleaning gig this weekend in the countryside.
Do you know what this place is? This is Murder Castle. If you want the views, this might be your ticket, baby.
Hands free.
Come on, shake it and let's go.
You have to film everything.
Today we are going on a ghost hunt.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is an action comedy horror called How to Kill Monsters, and this movie's available on VOD Digital. The sole survivor of a blood-drenched massacre must team up with a ragtag bunch of rookie cops and lawbreakers to defend a police station from an invasion of monsters from another dimension. It is directed by Stuart Spark. Okay, so after watching the trailer for How to Kill Monsters, I think this one looks like a little bit of a meh creature feature action horror. I didn't see much in the way of creeps and scares, but from what we've seen, I could see maybe the movie having a couple of light jump scares in it. Now, when it came to the gore, it really didn't see that extreme in the trailer, but from the little things that we did see, it could definitely have a gory element to it. Not only did we see it in some of the scenes, but we also saw it in some of the jokes, like the one where they ask, "Where's our friend?" and you're standing in him and he almost throws up on the spot. So, I mean, there is a good possibility that unless they're cutaway scenes, we could get some decent gore. Now, one of my concerns with the film is that some of it did look CGI, and unfortunately, not all of it looked great. Now, although the monsters we see didn't look too bad as far as the CGI, none of it really elicited any emotion in me that made me feel like I was looking at something that was like great quality. Now, the premise seems decent, and I did like some of the characters and some of the one-liners. They did get a smirk. And personally, I think if you're into kind of more of a zany comedy horror, you probably will get more out of this film than me. But personally, I'm just going to give this one a little bit of a lower priority on my watch list.
Whatever power brought that monster into our world is still out there. And if we don't stop it, we are all going to die.
Bob! Did they get Bob? What about Bob?
You're standing on him!
Oh,
Next, we're going to take a look at another comedy horror called The Invisible Raptor, and this movie's available on VOD Digital. An amusement park paleontologist and a hapless security guard team up to stop an invisible raptor from wreaking havoc on their small town. It is directed by Mike Hermosa. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Invisible Raptor, although this one looks kind of decent, it is definitely an entirely silly and zany monster horror. Now, I didn't see anything in the way of creeps and scares in the trailer, so if you are in the mood for some more like scary material, I think you're safe in skipping this one. At most, just like the other movies that we covered, I could only see a couple of maybe tense hiding escape scenes and a couple of jump scares. Now, when it comes to the gore, we did see some in the trailer, but seeing as the movie kind of follows the vein of more of a family-friendly film, I could see it having like a good amount of blood, just no guts. Now, the story itself for surely doesn't feel like anything exactly groundbreaking, but I guess we could call the Invisible Raptor part, like just the mix of those, kind of a unique element. And even though it was kind of interesting because you just see them kind of fighting an invisible force, I also feel like it was a great cost production saving gimmick. Now, when it comes to the Invisible Raptor, even though the production looked a little bit better than the last film, it still really isn't my cup of tea, and it's gonna get a lower priority on my watch list.
Your life sucks.
you got a 1059.
I don't know what that means, Denny.
You thinking coyotes again?
I have reason to believe there's a raptor on the loose.
A rapper on the loose? Should we be on the lookout for LL Cool J? Or Tone Loc?
Okay, no.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is an animation horror called Abruptio, and this movie's available on VOD Digital.
I'm losing my mind.
Les Hackle is a guy down on his luck who wakes up to find an explosive device has been implanted in his neck. It is directed by Evan Marlowe. Okay, after watching the trailer for Abruptio, this looks like an interesting, surprisingly heavy animated horror. Now, I didn't really see any creeps in the scares in the trailer, but to be completely honest, I have yet for any kind of animated film to really scare me. Now, when it comes to the gore in this film, it absolutely looks visceral. Now, seeing that this is an animated kind of puppet horror film, I really was surprised with how much gore was in the trailer, and it is one of the things that kind of interested me and drew me in. Not only did it have a good amount of blood and violence, but it also had some really, and I'm talking about puppets, but it just had some disturbing imagery from like a character taking their last breaths or like piles of bodies, and even some of the gore scenes, it just was kind of a lot. Now, although some of the gore, like parts where you see people being dismembered and stuff like that, it was pretty CGI, but it's a lot easier for me to kind of forgive CGI when it's in an animated film. Now, this one really does have an original story, and not only does it look weird, but it just looks so raw. Now, some of the things that we do see happen in the trailer, they just look really crazy, and I'm really interested to see what this film in its essence is all about. Now, whether or not I'm excited about Abruptio, that's kind of a tough one because it is an animated doll horror, which throws me, but it does look like we're going to get something like just raw and disturbing, and that is interesting. Now, for me, I'm definitely more into disturbing and weird, and so even if it's more out of curiosity, I think Abruptio is going to get a little bit of a higher priority on my watch list.
I've done some terrible things. Things I didn't think I was capable of.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a drama horror thriller named Breathing In, and this movie is available on VOD Digital.
I must not lose.
In 1901 South Africa, a wounded general seeks refuge in a small home of a woman and her young daughter. Before long, he'll learn the real reason why they've invited him and how they've survived on their own for so long. It is directed by Chateau. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Breathing In, this looks like an interesting, almost folksy thriller horror. Now, from what I saw in the trailer, the creeps and scares might not be too bad in this one, and by that I mean we might get some actual creeps and probably some good jump scares. Now, I didn't really see much gore in the trailer, but I did get the impression that we could see some decent gore in the movie. You do see some scenarios where, like, anytime I see, like, a far-off body hunched over another body, I don't know, you might just see some pretty good, like, evisceration or just blood or anything kind of, it has an unnerving, gory look. Now, the premise for this film definitely caught my attention, as it does look like a well-produced period piece, and a lot of the characters intrigued me, like even the girl, and just it looked pretty intriguing. Now, the dialogue that I did hear in the trailer gave me a feel like we could be getting some kind of like witchy occult feel. So if you don't really like a weirder slow burn, I don't know because I haven't seen the movie, but it does look like we could get a good dose of that. Now, Breathing In as a movie, it did look okay, and I was kind of interested in the characters and story, so I think I'm going to give this one a regular priority on my watch list.
Your face. I never knew anyone could have a face like you.
I can never fall asleep, you see. My mother keeps me awake. If I sleep, it will be so deep, and I'll fall and keep falling. Leave her behind forever.
Last movie we're going to take a look at this week is a horror thriller named Pacific Fear, and this movie is available on VOD Digital.
Bienvenue dans l'enfer du paradis.
This film follows a group of surfers looking out for waves in a mysterious island that's been vanished from all maps. It is directed by Jacques Kluger. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Pacific Fear, this looks like a meh thriller horror. Now, when it comes to the creeps and scares in the film, the tribe that's kind of chasing the main characters around, they didn't really strike me as the most menacing bunch, but I'm sure we're going to get some great escape tension in the film. I just didn't see any real like creeps or scares though. Now, when it comes to the gore, we definitely didn't see any in the trailer, but I find that kind of these island tribe horrors, they always do have a little bit of gore or sometimes a lot of gore, but again, it's just nothing I saw in the trailer, so that's a little bit of a guess. Now, when it comes to the story of this film, I really do like the premise of the story. I just wish we had some better trappings around the story and production of the film. Because when it came to the story and production, they really were a bright shining spot for me. I just tend to like the idea of characters going to a forbidden island and then all the bad things that happen to them being like these foreign devils. Even though I know the premise of the story isn't exactly unique, it really is surrounded by some great cinematography, a lot of the underwater stuff looked good, and the island just looks spectacular. I just wish I felt a little bit more heart from the film as a whole, as the premise is fairly run-of-the-mill. Maybe something will come along and surprise me in this one, but for now, I think this one's going to get a lower priority on my watch list.
C'est quoi cet endroit?
C'est un marais. Un lieu sacré.
Je croyais que tu croyais plus en tout ça, moi.
Surtout touche à rien, Jen. Va reposer ça.
Ça va. Ça, je rigole.
T'es chiante.
Je sens qu'on va passer une très très bonne soirée.
Well, guys, that's going to do it for another episode of brand new releases for you guys to watch and stream. Again, I hope you like this content, and if you did find a couple of gems for your watch list, please leave me a like and subscribe. Now, if I had to make a couple of picks this week, the first pick I'm going to make is the movie Abruptio. I just think it looks weird and good. I do like even though it's puppets, I kind of like the fact that it's puppets because I do like to see just insanely gory or deep or dark material in different mediums, and it looks like they really try to kind of embody this seriousness in it that is just disturbing. The character's disturbing, even the things he says, the way he says them. I don't know, I'm just kind of interested to see if this movie has that same kind of feeling of disturbing vein that I feel in the trailer. And my next pick this week is going to be the found footage movie Chateau. Not only do I like the characters, and I did think that they were played well, and I do see some kind of interesting character interaction, even in the mundanity of found footage. I did find that it had some good creeps and scares, and I really do like found footages that kind of breach into more of a supernatural feel. And I felt like this movie looked like it had good creeps and scares with kind of the supernatural element that it tied into this kind of influencer found footage. So that's definitely going to be my second pick of the week. Well, guys, that's it for me for real this time. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Please keep in mind, again, next week, I will be dancing and drinking in Cancun, so we will have to catch up with the new movies the week after that. But in the meantime, I have got to get out of here because I have got a ton of movies to watch, especially with the new year coming up and me trying to get like my best of the year ready, and one little kind of special award video that I do have ready for you guys, so that's going to be exciting. It's going to be a little bit of work, but I am excited to bring you guys that. I hope you guys have been well and taking care of yourselves, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
It's your mother.
My mother's dead.
Then why is she standing behind you?